I bought her a dream. I bought my daughter a flower shop because she had always loved fixing broken things. When she was little, she would pick up wilted flowers from the sidewalk, bring them home, and place them in water like she could save them if she tried hard enough. She believed beauty deserved a second chance. That's who she was. So when she told me she wanted to open a flower shop, her own place, her own name, her own future, I didn't hesitate. I told myself money was replaceable. Dreams weren't. I emptied my savings. Every dollar I had worked for. Every late night. Every sacrifice. I told myself it was worth it. The shop was supposed to be a gift, a surprise, a beginning. I didn't tell her the exact day I'd visit. I wanted to see her in her element, confident, proud, glowing behind her own counter. I imagined walking in and seeing her smile when she realized I believed in her more than anyone else. But that's not what I walked into. The bell above the door rang softly when I entered. I remember noticing the smell first. Not roses, not lilies, not fresh earth or greenery. It smelled tense. The air felt heavy, like something had already gone wrong before I arrived. I stood near the entrance, unnoticed for a moment, and took everything in. There were people behind the counter I had never seen before. A woman in her 50s stood with her arms crossed, giving instructions. A man counted cash at the register like he owned the place. And then I saw my daughter. She was standing near the back, arranging flowers with stiff mechanical movements. Her shoulders were hunched. Her eyes were red. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't leading. She looked like she was trying not to disappear. My heart dropped. I called her name softly. She jumped. Actually jumped. Like she'd been caught doing something wrong. She turned around and froze when she saw me. For a second, real emotion crossed her face. Relief. Fear. Shame. Then she wiped her eyes quickly and forced a smile. "Mom, you're early." Early? That word made no sense. I looked around again. "Why are there strangers in your shop?" Her hands trembled as she set the flowers down. "They're helping." Helping. That's the word people use when they don't feel safe telling the truth. Before she could say more, the woman at the counter turned toward us. She looked me up and down slowly, like she was assessing my worth. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her tone wasn't rude. It was worse. It was dismissive. "I'm her mother," I said calmly. "I paid for this shop." Her smile didn't fade, but it changed. "Oh," she said. "Yes, we know." We. She walked toward me like she belonged there. "These things can be confusing at first," she continued. "But we're managing operations now. It's better this way." Better for who? I looked at my daughter. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Why isn't she behind the counter?" I asked. The woman glanced at my daughter, then back at me. "She's still learning," she said lightly. "Running a business requires discipline." Discipline. As if my daughter was a child who needed correction. I felt something twist in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "what's going on?" She swallowed hard. "They said it's temporary." Temporary. That word again. That's when I noticed the small details. The way my daughter flinched when the woman spoke. The way the man at the register avoided eye contact. The way the shop didn't feel like hers anymore. I asked where her boyfriend was. The woman answered too quickly. "He's busy." Busy. Funny how people are always busy when they know they're wrong. I suggested we step outside to talk. My daughter nodded immediately. Too quickly. The moment the door closed behind us, she broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. She just folded into herself, like she'd been holding everything together by sheer force. "They're taking it," she whispered. "They're taking everything." I held her while she told me the truth. How after the shop opened, her boyfriend's family insisted on supporting her. How they said she was too soft for business decisions. How they slowly took over suppliers, accounts, schedules. How they pressured her to sign documents she didn't fully understand. They said it was normal, she cried. They said this is how families do business. Families. That word hurts the most when it's used as a weapon. She told me how they changed the locks for security, how her access to the accounts was removed by mistake, how customers were told she was just helping out. They said if I didn't cooperate, she whispered, they'd shut the shop down. I asked about her boyfriend. Her voice cracked. He says I'm overreacting. That hurt more than the theft. When we went back inside, I did something that surprised even myself. I smiled. I apologized. I thanked them for helping. I watched their shoulders relax. That's when I understood something important. They thought they'd already won. As we were leaving, the woman leaned toward me and said quietly, "Don't worry. She'll learn her place." I nodded politely, but inside, something hardened. They didn't just take money. They took advantage of love. And as I held my daughter's hand walking away from the shop I paid for, I made a promise, one they would never hear. I wouldn't fight loudly. I wouldn't rush. I would let them believe this was over. Because the worst mistakes people make are always committed when they think no one is watching. And I was watching everything. They took her voice. After that day, something in my daughter went quiet. She still woke up early every morning, still put on clean clothes, still tied her hair back the way she always had when she was focused. But the light was gone. She went to the flower shop like someone walking into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. Every morning, she told herself the same lie. Just get through today. And every night, she came home a little smaller. They didn't push her out all at once. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they erased her slowly. First, they stopped asking her opinion. Then they stopped informing her of decisions. Then they started correcting her, in front of customers. "No, not like that," his mother would say, smiling sweetly. "We've decided to change the arrangements." Customers began turning to the boyfriend's family for answers instead of my daughter. Suppliers stopped calling her. Invoices stopped coming to her email. She was still there, but she no longer mattered. One evening, she sat at the kitchen table staring at her phone, unread messages lighting up the screen. Her boyfriend. "Why are you making this so difficult? My parents are just trying to help. You need to stop embarrassing us." Us. That word again. I watched her read those messages over and over, as if maybe the meaning would change if she stared long enough. "Why don't you say something?" I asked gently. She shook her head. "If I push back, they'll shut everything down." That's when I understood. They weren't just stealing a business. They were holding her dream hostage. A week later, I went to the shop alone. I wanted to see it with my own eyes, without her trying to protect me from the truth. The bell rang as I walked in. The shop looked different. Not warmer, not better. Colder. A large sign hung near the entrance. Under new management. No mention of my daughter's name. No acknowledgement of the woman who had built the place from scratch. I asked for her. The boyfriend's mother didn't even look up. "She's busy in the back." Busy, like she was an inconvenience. I walked past the counter without asking permission. My daughter was trimming stems in silence. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "They told me not to talk to you about business anymore," she whispered. Not to talk to her own mother. That's when anger finally reached my bones. I confronted them calmly. Asked why the sign was there. Asked why my daughter's role had changed. Asked why decisions were being made without her. The boyfriend's father answered, voice sharp but controlled. "This is business," he said, "not emotions." Business. That word again. As if money gave them permission to crush someone. That night, her boyfriend came home furious. Not because she was hurting, because she had made his family uncomfortable. He accused her of being ungrateful, of forgetting who rescued her shop, of biting the hand that fed her. She looked at him and asked a simple question. "Why does it feel like it's not mine anymore?" He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a folder. Documents. More papers. "I need you to sign these," he said. "It's just to make things official." Official. That word people use when they're about to lock you out legally. She brought the papers to me that night. Her hands were shaking. "I don't understand all of this," she said. "But if I don't sign, I lose everything." I read them slowly, and my blood ran cold. Ownership clauses buried in technical language. Control transferred quietly. Her role reduced to nothing more than labor. They weren't helping her run the shop. They were taking it, piece by piece, signature by signature. I looked up at my daughter. "They're pressuring you," I said. She nodded, tears spilling freely now. "They said if I loved him, I'd trust them." Love. Another word used as a weapon. I hugged her for a long time. Then I said something she didn't expect. "Sign them." She pulled back, shocked. "What?" "Do exactly what they want," I repeated softly. No arguments, no resistance, no emotion. Her eyes searched my face. "Why?" "Because people who think they've won," I said, "stop hiding their mistakes." She didn't understand yet, but she trusted me. And that was enough. The next day, she signed the papers. They celebrated, smiled wider, spoke louder, acted like the shop was finally theirs. They didn't notice the silence. They didn't notice me stepping back, not defeated, but watching. Because while they were busy congratulating themselves, they forgot something very important. They didn't just underestimate my daughter. They underestimated me. And soon, they were going to learn the cost of that mistake. Silence is a weapon. After my daughter signed the papers, the house went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that settles after something breaks and no one wants to admit it. She stopped talking about the shop, stopped defending it, stopped hoping. And that was exactly what they wanted. They mistook her silence for surrender. Her boyfriend became lighter, happier. He talked about growth and plans, like the shop had always belonged to his family. He stopped asking her opinion altogether. She wasn't a partner anymore. She was background noise. Every morning, she still went to the shop, early, like always. She unlocked doors she no longer had keys for. She worked under managers she had trained. They thought they'd erased her, but they forgot something important. Silence creates space. And in that space, I started working. I didn't argue, I didn't threaten, I didn't warn, I observed. I began with what I already had: bank transfers, receipts, messages. I went back months, carefully building a timeline of everything I had paid for. Every supplier, every deposit, every promise made to my daughter in writing. Then I watched what they did next, and that's when they got careless. The shop's money stopped being treated like business money. It paid for dinners that had nothing to do with flowers. Vacations disguised as conferences. Large cash withdrawals with no explanation. They stopped keeping records clean. People always do when they think no one is watching. My daughter noticed it too. She'd come home and casually mention things she saw. Not complaints, facts. They used the shop card at a jewelry store today. They paid their rent from the business account. They fired the accountant. Fired. That was their biggest mistake, because the new accountant didn't know the history. And the old ones still did. Meanwhile, the boyfriend's tone changed. He started calling her difficult, telling her she was lucky to still have a place there, reminding her how easily she could be replaced. Then one night, he crossed a line. They fired her. Not formally, not respectfully, just a text. "Don't come in tomorrow. We'll mail your things." She stared at her phone for a long time. No tears, no anger, just stillness. I wrapped my arms around her. "It's over," I said gently. She whispered, "I feel relieved." That's when I knew. They had lost control, because the moment they fired her, they broke the illusion. She no longer needed them, she no longer needed to pretend, and they no longer had protection. The next morning I made the call I'd been waiting to make. A lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the kind who listens more than he speaks. I laid everything out, the money trail, the coercion, the firing, the misuse of funds. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back and smiled. "They made this very easy," he said. Over the next few weeks, everything moved quietly. Accounts were reviewed, documents analyzed, messages cataloged, and the truth emerged, clear and undeniable. They had committed fraud. They had forced signatures under pressure. They had misrepresented ownership. They had used business funds illegally, all while documenting it themselves online. They posted photos, bragged, tagged locations. People loved to celebrate victories they didn't earn. Meanwhile, the boyfriend started calling, apologizing, explaining, promising change. My daughter didn't answer. Then his mother called me. Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. It shook. "We need to talk," she said. I smiled softly. "We already are." Because by the time she realized something was wrong, the paperwork was already filed. The accounts were already flagged. And the shop they thought they owned? It was about to be taken from them the same way they took it from my daughter. Quietly. Legally. Completely. Justice blooms. By the time the boyfriend's family realized something was wrong, it was too late. They had spent months celebrating a victory that didn't exist. They had taken what wasn't theirs, believing no one was watching. They had underestimated patience, underestimated quiet resolve, underestimated the mother who would do anything for her daughter. The morning the first legal notices arrived, chaos began. Accounts frozen, documents challenged, fraud investigations initiated. They called my daughter repeatedly. "Please, we can fix this. It's all a misunderstanding. Sign something and we can make this right." Her phone stayed silent. Her messages unread. Then the calls started coming to me. His mother, his father, even the boyfriend himself. I answered politely, never raising my voice, never showing urgency. They begged, they pleaded, they tried to negotiate. I handed them everything: receipts, bank statements, messages, contracts they had themselves signed, pages and pages of evidence, proof they couldn't argue with. Their eyes widened as they realized the magnitude of their own carelessness. Why didn't we notice this?" His mother whispered during a call that I let last 5 full minutes. Her voice trembled, and for the first time, I heard fear instead of arrogance. Because fear has a way of making people small. And they were small now. The court process moved swiftly. The contracts they had forced my daughter to sign were declared null and void. Ownership reverted. Funds were returned. The shop was hers again, not as a gift, not as a favor, but as a rightful claim. The damages awarded? Enough to not only reopen the shop but renovate it, expand it, make it better than ever. When she walked back into that shop for the first time after months of heartbreak, it smelled like freedom. The flowers smelled brighter. The sun hitting the windows felt warmer. Her keys worked again. The sign outside bore her name. Every customer who came in felt the shift in energy. This was her domain again. As for the boyfriend, he tried to reach out one last time, his texts apologetic, pleading, trying to charm and manipulate. She didn't respond. She didn't need closure. She had victory. His family, however, learned the hardest lesson of all. They lost more than money. They lost credibility. They lost respect, and the illusion that they could control anyone through greed and deception. On opening day, my daughter's eyes sparkled again, the kind of sparkle I hadn't seen in months. Her smile was cautious at first, then full and unstoppable. She had been broken, humiliated, and deceived. But she was back, stronger, wiser, untouchable. I watched her from the doorway, holding her favorite coffee. The woman I had raised, the one with a heart too big for betrayal, stood taller than anyone who had ever tried to crush her. I whispered softly to myself, kindness is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Patience is power. And just like that, karma bloomed quietly, perfectly, and fully. The shop was hers. Her voice was hers. And no one would ever take it away again.